Hello, welcome back to Constituent Marking with Fred Long on Proof Text. And I am the veritable Fred Long here. I'm leading the charge, doing this constituent marking. This passage is just so fascinating, and Paul is just hunkering down into application, right? So chapter 12 is the theology of spiritual gifts. Chapter 13 of 1 Corinthians is the motivation, love of spiritual gifts, and love and edification. And then chapter 14 just really drives home this idea of edification, like the praxis of spiritual gifts. And he's really hunkering down on prophesying. So I don't know if you realize that, but he wants to have the Corinthians reframe their understanding of spiritual gifts. And he's really strongly urging prophesying, intelligibility and prophesying and edification. Okay, so these all are coming together here. And we're seeing this sustained focus on prophesying and limiting how much tongue speaking or language speaking there is, and quieting it if there's no translator, right? Quieting it. But then talking about prophesying and saying two or three, let two or three prophesy. And moreover, like there needs to be an orderliness, because we saw in the previous verse that verse 30, that if a revelation comes to another who's sitting, that the first person should be quiet. Okay, so there's orderliness. Now, verse 31 here that we're looking at today, we're going to see is providing support. Dunas that gar. Gar is marking strengthening. So whenever you see a gar, it's providing strengthening or substantiation or support in some way. In some way, it's doing that. It's marking strengthening. For dunas that you are able, kata ena, each one distributed. You all, pantes, that's the subject. So dunas the gar, so gar receives a box around it. Dunas the is you are able, and whenever I see this verb, that's from duname, it's a middle form verb. I'm almost always looking for an infinitive. You're able to prophet tevin, prophesy. So the dunas the is single underlined, and then the pontes is the subject, all, and then the prophet tevin is single underlined as well. This is called a complementary infinitive. It's present active infinitive. You are able all. You all are able. Each one, distributive. Kata ena. So kata ena is a prepositional phrase that we put inside of parentheses. Each one. And it's kind of an idiom. Kata, working with ena. It has like a distributive kind of sense, and it's particularizing. So each one of you, for each one of you, each one are able to prophesy. So I guess at this point, he's already specified that there's two or three that are going to be prophesying. So you don't need to interrupt each other. One person stands, but if a revelation comes to one that is sitting down, somehow they need to get the other's attention, and then the one that was speaking, prophesying, needs to sit down, apparently. So there's only one person standing at a time that is speaking, apparently. And so then Paul says, that you're all of you, each one. So each one, presumably of the two or three that are prophesying, each one of you is able to prophesy. Okay? And so it's important that he's wanting this to be orderly. So it's important, just to be fair, that it's not just the the tongue speaking or the language speaking that can be disruptive, but there seems to be a need for putting rules on the prophesying. Each one of you, he says, are going to be able to prophesy. So you just take turns. So, okay. And so this is all of this, first part of 31, all of it, I'm going to put it in blue, is the means. Okay. It's the means for a goal. Now, why am I saying there's a goal there? Well, this ina, look at the ina in verse 31 there. That's a conjunction. It starts a subordinate clause. And so that is actually the goal. And I'm going to call it a goal. I mark that as a goal. In order that all, pantes, single underlined, manthanosin, would learn, ke, box around ke, and pantes, single underline pantes, and then single underline parakalunte. All would be encouraged, exhorted. Okay, parakaleo, to encourage or exhort. So these are subjunctive mood verbs, manthanosin and parakalonte. The first one is third plural. It's active. The second one is middle passive, third plural. You can see that ending, onte, is a middle passive ending. They're all subjunctives here because ina takes the subjunctive most of the time. I mean, a large proportion of the time. Sometimes it could be used with a future indicative, but that would be to ramp things up. But yeah, these are present tense. So there's a lot of stress on all. Are you seeing that? Pontus, pontus, pontus. All, each one, are able to prophesy in order that all would learn and all would be exhorted, encouraged. This word parakaleo seems to have a broad range of meanings, from comfort to encourage or exhort, which is also, it's kind of another extreme. Like, how intense is this parakaleo activity? Comforting. Look at 2 Corinthians chapter 1 at the beginning. Suffering, going through sufferings in order that you could comfort another. I mean, that's obviously, I guess that's a kind of exhorting, but anyway, it's interesting just to think about what this word means. And then you have other contexts where parakaleo seems more like admonishing. But the main point of verse 31 is that the ability for all the prophets to have a turn to prophesy, and the cumulative goal of all of that is that all would learn and all would be exhorted, comforted, encouraged. And this verb manthano is a really interesting one because it's the verb from which we get the noun for disciple. Mathetes. Mathetes is the noun form of this verb, manthano. Manthano is a second aorist verb that actually has second aorist verb. What that means is that they have some stem changes when they're forming the aorist tense, and the stem change is moth, and that's the core of this verb and its root, and it's from there that we get the word mathetes, which is the word for disciple. Yeah, in order that all would learn. We have to always remember that disciples are learners. And what is it that they're learning? We're learning to follow Jesus, and we're learning to follow Jesus through Scripture, an exposition of Scripture, and being led by the Spirit. Like, all of those work together. And I would say, celebrating the Eucharist and the table is also a part of that. So you have fellowship, you've got the Word through prophesying, Spirit presence through the operation of the gifts, and you have worship, corporate worship. All of these things are for the purpose of us to learn and to be encouraged. Yeah. All right. Well, that's 1431. Hope you found that helpful and look forward to have you watch and listen next time. Take care.